PETA, podcast every day in April, where during the month of April you'll hear about different topics and different stories and discussions that I have on my mind and on my heart to discuss and address for this month. It may be sports related, it may be stuff related. You may even hear some guests on the show that you may haven't even seen or heard from me addressing on the show. But this is PETA, and this is Podcast Every Day in April. Hope you enjoy. Episode 178 of The Pass is here. What's going on, y'all? This is your host, BT. Doing yet another episode. Just want to go ahead and get this show rolling because I know it's a pretty simple but I won't say complex conversation, but this is something that people don't think about. So I put the title "Are You a Brand?" but how I have it written on my board for the title is "Do You Have a Brand?" So I'm gonna kind of do this both ways, and the only reason I am is because they're similar but they're different, and I'll explain that entire theory of what caused me to believe that as we continue through this topic. So, do you have a brand? Is what I'll go into first. When you go through your day, when you go through your routine, whether you realize it or not, you're part of a personal brand that you're either going to build, maintain, or could possibly destroy. I'll give this to you in a more direct yet detailed scenario, and then that'll kind of tie into why I put the second title of Are You a Brand? Anytime a celebrity and or an athlete does something, the media is going to know about it. And it's a tough way of saying it, but bad publicity is publicity. It's stardom, it's fame. The first person that I always think of with this, because he's been in the scene and in news a lot, whether we want him to or not, LeVar Ball, father of Lonzo Ball. LeVar Ball, whether people realize it or want to acknowledge it, is a brand. And no, before anyone jumps into this is not referring to Big Baller Brand. This is referring to LeVar Ball, the individual, aka the parent, as a brand. He is his own entertainment or his own entity. Now, the Big Baller Brand is what he created, and it was kind of generated to produce shoes for his three sons. So that entails, or that kind of ties in and gives you the perspective of understanding that brands do exist, and being a brand individually, it applies. You go to, your job, you go to school, you go through your daily life. If you go through your daily life, and this will really give you a better eye towards it as well. If you go through your daily life and you post Instagram videos or Snapchat videos or Facebook Live videos, what you say or what you do is going to be key to what can be perceived of you as a person. As a person, individually, that's an acknowledgement of a brand. Everyone's brand is different, and everyone's brand varies by state or by specific stating. You can either handle, be you. A lot of times, and I'm saying be you, referring to it as be yourself, but also be cordial in what and how you do things. A few years ago, my friends and I, we would, we hang out now still, but when we were hanging out at first, it was a very valid and legitimate understanding as, hey, if we're hanging out and we're doing something, we don't want to do anything to ruin or jeopardize our lives or our future, because we're all professionals. And I mean, that still applies to this day. So when things are done, you don't want something to come to light or come to fruition that may not want to be seen by the public eye. I guess I'll put it that way. So when something is seen or something is perceived, that's where branding comes into play. Now, I'm going to say this because it's relevant to point out regarding this podcast. You're going to have people that don't understand how important your brand is to you. But you can't let what someone else does ruin your brand or ruin your persona or your stance on whatever. And I only bring it to that circle, bring it to that in that verbal sense, because we sometimes can get out of hand with what we share. Some things can be shared and some things can be presented to others, and it's no problem. But some stuff can be kept private, and it's not going to be the end of the world. In hindsight and in theory, no one needs to know every single move or every single thing you eat every part of the day. It's just not that important sometimes. And in some cases we understand that, but some cases it's like I gotta share, I gotta tell what I'm eating on the gram. Or rise and grind, I understand. Bake and wake is, I don't understand why people want to acknowledge or present that as an announcement, because that's cool, but I mean, that's your personal thing that we don't need to know. So to answer the question, and I'm going to answer both. Do you have a brand? Yes. Are you a brand? Yes. You may not consider yourself as a brand, and you may not feel as though you have a brand, but you are. And I'm going to put it even to a higher standard because I just mentioned LeVar Ball initially. I'll give another person, LeBron James. LeBron is a very private but public figure in sports. He's public because he's pretty much the face of basketball. In 15 years, he's still the face of the NBA, whether people realize it or not. When something occurs that's big or a huge story, he's one of the first people that they bring to attention. He's one of the first ones that you will hear possibly speak on that particular topic or issue. If anything personally happens in his life, it's shared because he's opting to have it shared. As far as when, it's vandalized his home, or in the opposite end of it with his kid, with his oldest son playing basketball, that's media that he's allowing and is being handled and viewed. If anything bad were to occur with him, and it's not me stating or wishing that, but if it was, there's a slim chance that it would be a public presentation. And if it has, there's a way to get that, they would find a way to get that nubbed and nipped in the bud quick. Two sports teams that really uphold branding, and I know I'm hanging this on sports, but it's kind of my way of relating this story. If you look at the San Antonio Spurs and the New England Patriots in basketball and football, respectively, most stories that happen stay in-house. Now, there's an exception, obviously, with the Kawhi Leonard story that if you keep up with basketball, I believe I've talked about that on my weekly shows. But for the most part, most of the information or most of the topics that are handled internally, because the last thing they want is to get bad publicity. Those are teams that consider and think of how important bad publicity is for their team and for their sport and for their aura. So having a brand, being a brand, you can be and you are in most cases, and you may not realize it. So I'm just going to leave this as a simple story and just saying, if you do not realize that you're a brand, think of what you're doing and look at how it's perceived. Analyzing what you say and breaking down what you do is very key, because you never know who may see that information at some point down the line. And that's what I'm going to leave y'all with today for this show. As always, episodes are uploaded to Spreaker.com. And if you're looking to invest in a microphone, I'm using a Blue Yeti microphone. And our episodes are uploaded on passpodcast.com. And finally, if you are looking to subscribe, I do have the iTunes link for that if you have an iPhone at the bottom of the page, as well as for your For my Android lovers, Podcast Addict, my podcasts are there as well. And until next time, y'all take it easy. The Pad signing out. The one point of the show I don't like to reach, but every show must have an ending. So you have made it to the end of yet another episode of the podcast Every Day in April. Continue to tune in. These will be going on from April the 1st until April the 30th. And I will guarantee you that there will be plenty of content and more than enough information to share and address during this show. Thanks for tuning in.